highlight, of course, is the fact that they have now capped the daily data usage limit, which earlier was 4 GB per person per day, has been brought down to 1 GB per person per day in order to improve the quality of service. But let's discuss these implications in greater detail. We're now joined by a whole host of experts. Sanjay Kapoor, the former CEO of Bharti Airtel, Nitin Soni, the Director, Corporate Fitch Ratings, as well as the former Director General of COAI and currently the President of the Broadband TV Association, Mr. TV Ramchandran. Good evening, gentlemen, and thanks so much for joining in. Mr. Kapoor, let me start with you. What, according to you, are the top 3 implications of today's announcement for the telecom sector?
Look, there are multiple stakeholders in any such moves that get announced. First of all, from Reliance Jio's perspective, it's not a surprise. They wanted the 100 million, I think that was the loosely floating number everywhere, to say they wanted 100 million customers to begin with. And everybody's aware that when you get 100 million non-paying customers or free customers, then the moment you begin to charge, there's a dropout ratio that will come into play. And 100 million is such a large number that even if there's a dropout ratio, the residual still remains very, very large. And therefore, I think Reliance wants to make sure that they get there. I think secondly, from their perspective, they also recognize that 500 rupees and 1,000 rupee notes have been allowed to top up the accounts of prepaid users till 15th of December. Now, obviously, if there's a top-up that happens, then the residual balances in the accounts of prepaid customers will swell up. And this will allow them time for those to deplete, and therefore the movement to paying customers becomes easy, and therefore this stretch goes in their favor. But if you really look at the incumbent operators, there's again a good and a bad for them as well. The bad is that not only the third quarter, but the fourth quarter will look a little subdued on top line and bottom line performance. But the good news is that this allows them 3 months extra to circumvent and go and approach their valued customers and hold them. Because I have always said that I don't believe that customers are going to be allowed to move from incumbent operators to Jio just because of price element. And I think the incumbent operators will do whatever it takes. And also the new spectrum that has been acquired by Voda and Idea, I think it will allow them to roll out their networks and for Airtel to fructify its position further on 4G experience for customers. So this allows them 3 months extra. So there's good and bad.
Right.
But from the industry perspective and investor perspective, obviously this move is not a positive one because uncertainty then continues.
Right.
To say how many customers, what impact will it have? And if I'm an investor, a potential investor in this environment, I will stay put. And therefore, I'll stay put for 3 additional months. Right. And therefore, I think from a whole overall industry perspective, it's not a good news. I think the uncertainty prolongs itself a little more. But there are pluses and minuses for everybody, like I just enumerated.
That's very comprehensive, Mr. Kapoor. If I can go across to Nitin Soni from Fitch. Nitin, in a way, this extension till March of 2017, is it an admission that the level of service quality needs to be improved to bring about stickiness whenever Reliance decides to charge its consumers, as Mr. Kapoor was also pointing out? And B, do you think incumbents will start to react with their own offers, etc., apart from lowering tariff, which anyway has been happening? Or do you think they'll wait till Jio starts to charge, see how their consumers are responding, and then come up with their offers? Go on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So we already have a negative outlook on the sector. This move is unprecedented. I don't think it has ever happened in any part of the world where a new telco has come into the sector and is offering 7 months free services. This is going to be further disruptive for the incumbent telcos, where it will lead to lower generation.
Nitin, I think we are losing the line with you. I'm going to try and call you back on a landline and try and hope for better connectivity.
How ironical.
Absolutely. I mean, just hang in there. We're just calling you back. Mr. Tulsian, if I can pose that same question to you. In a way, it's admitting that maybe for stickiness, you need to offer more and better quality of service, especially on voice at this point. Go on, sir.
Prashant, that's right, and in fact, that's the point I raised in the afternoon also. Now, if you really see, I don't think that if you talk to the customers, larger customers, there will always be a small portion who will still be concerned on the tariff. But now, larger people of the users, the mobile users on the voice telephony I'm referring to, is they want quality. And in fact, if you see the behavior of the three incumbents, let me be blunt in saying that has been pathetic, in handling the maybe call drop issues, or maybe the customer services, or maybe so many other things. And in fact, people are reminded of the problems when they face of the number portability, the ruthless behavior. People have sometimes started talking of the behavior of these private incumbents, the incumbents players, that of the MTNL kind of things. So I think that the focus now of Reliance Jio, having experienced that what kind of things can kill the, or can cause hardship to the incumbent, is the better customer service, number one. Number two, having extended the scheme by 3 months will put the huge financial burdens on the existing players. I am not saying for the company like Bharti Airtel and Vodafone, because both can sustain, but I won't be surprised to see the financials on a quarterly basis of Idea and Arcom. Even if you take Arcom with the Aircel merger, though that will take a very long time, still you have 3 quarters away of that thing happening. I won't be surprised to see the quarterly numbers, the bottom line coming in the red for these companies, and it is very difficult beyond a point for both of them to sustain. So you start tackling them one by one. You have the 4 competitors in front of them. You can easily knock 2 of them out of the race, because of the financial hardship getting caused to them. So that the dual strategy played by this Reliance Jio now of the better customer service. Take one point of delivery of the SIM card at your house and activation within 5 minutes. Have you heard that of happening with any of the incumbent players, whatever we may talk of? So yes, these 2 things, better customer service and the financial hardship getting caused to the other players in the sector, will really be the key for Reliance Jio to succeed and to beg a customer base of maybe about 100 million ton to start with when the tariff starts getting fixed from 1st April 2017.
In fact, let's continue that point about the huge financial burden. We managed to reconnect with Nitin Soni of Fitch. Nitin, complete the earlier point, and considering the huge financial burden, as Mr. Tulsian was saying, likely on Idea as well as Reliance Communication, is there a case for you to downgrade your ratings on any of these telecom operators?
Sure. So we have a rating of triple B minus on Bharti Airtel with a stable outlook. And we will have to, continuously monitor the credit of Bharti given the unprecedented kind of competition we are going to face in this sector. And I think we'll look out at the, the December and the March quarter, which will be clearly much more subdued now. And but it's Bharti is a very well positioned market leader. It has a $5 billion EBITDA and a leverage of around 2.5 times. It is in the best position to sustain this kind of a competition. It's not new. They have already faced such kind of competition in 2008. But again, this is an unprecedented move where a telco is offering free services for 7 months. I think Mr. Ambani in his mind is treating this whole venture as a startup and comparing it with Facebook and WhatsApp, where you put in like $15-20 billion investment and just make your consumers addicted to the services and not making any money out of it in the first 2 years.
So Bharti is relatively well positioned. What about Idea as well as Reliance Communication? How vulnerable are the financials for these 2 companies?
Yes, we have a double B minus rating on Reliance Communication, which has a very low ratings headroom. They are already in the process of merging their telecom operations with Aircel. So that is, we can assume that is already out and will create a new separate entity with Aircel. And they're also in talks to sell the tower assets. So Arcom will actually be left with the global exchange business, the undersea cable business, and the enterprise business. So which is, I would say, is a more steady business than the competitive telecom operations. We'll have to see once these deals are completed and how their balance sheet will look like, and that will determine the rating action on Arcom. But Idea, yes, it's the weakest among the top 3, top 4 telcos with heavily leveraged balance sheet now, and not they also lack the spectrum assets in the 4G services. So I think maybe in the medium term, Idea will have to do some kind of an M&A to strengthen its market position.
Mr. Ramchandran, what are your thoughts and sort of first impression with the with what has happened today, sir? On the data side, I mean, what implications does this have?
I think it's a stupendous announcement, a very, very significant milestone in our mobile telecoms in India. In my 22 years here, I have not heard of the likes of this anywhere in the globe or here. So I think what the earlier speakers have been saying, that this is going to have many, many different significant effects. I do tend to agree with many of the views, but have slightly different views on some other points. For example, as regards data, I beg to disagree that this is going to be bad going forward. I think Mr. Ambani is playing a very intelligent game. By extending another 3 months, he's not only fine-tuning his network, as he's openly admitted it, he's also getting people more and more hooked on data usage. And data usage he's talking of is humongous. Let me put it this way. If he were to, once these people are hooked, and like Sanjay rightly said, some will drop out when the free usage starts, that's all allowed for. The remaining data usage may also drop to 40%, 50% of what it is today. Take all that, even if it is coming to an average 3 GB per subscriber per month, and he starts charging 50 rupees per GB, like was said earlier, which is a very low rate, his ARPU is going to be 150 bucks, which is above the industry average of 125 today and falling. So please don't think that this is going to be all the way bleeding down in ARPU. I disagree with that. I think this is a very smart tactic.
Mr. Ramchandra, we're going to. I think you make a very interesting and good point there, sir. What we're going to do is we will slip into a very quick commercial break. We'll come right back. We have all of you with us, and we pose that question to somebody who's run one of the largest telecom company, Mr. Sanjay Kapoor, in just a bit. So take that break. Be right here. We'll see you on the other side.